Welcome to Intentional Movement Corporation, where we discuss all things home and lifestyle, including real estate and personal developments. In this space, possibilities are endless, and we lead a life of inspiration, class, luxury, elegance, joy, and liberation, leading to your ultimate life of transformation and empowerment. Welcome, my intentional movement community. I'm so happy to have you back, especially for the end and the beginning of a new year. So, today we are talking about the art and the science of Feng Shui and how it relates to our internal and external environments. And so, I'm sitting here in my office. It is a beautiful day outside. The snow's covered the trees and the grass. I personally love seeing that. I think it really is so beautiful. And I've got a candle going in the other room that smells like pine, and that is one of my favorite scents during this season. I've been really intrigued by Feng Shui, actually for years now. So it's been quite some time, but I haven't really talked about it publicly. I've only talked about it to my friends and my family. But I really think that Feng Shui is a really cool concept that we should be using. And I try to use it personally as much as I can. So it's basically just about the art and the science of the placement of things and how it affects you psychologically, emotionally, and basically in every aspect of your life. So obviously, on the show, we're talking about intentional movement, living our life with intention, with purpose, in order to create our best life possible. And as you all know, my philosophy is that our home is not only on the outside, but it's also on the inside. And so, as we're decorating our homes, as we're placing things in different arrangements, it does have an effect on us internally. Have you ever cleaned your room? I mean, I know I feel a lot better when I clean my room. I just feel lighter and happier and organized. So, this is basically what it's about. So, we're talking about energies, we're talking about, chi. And so, I don't want that to distract you from the psychology of it. Okay, so the definition of Feng Shui is the ancient Chinese practice centered on creating harmony between people and their environments. The art and science of arranging spaces to support the flow or the qi. Now, I know this sounds very energetic, based on the energy and the qi in ancient Chinese, culture. But at the same time, even if you're Christian like I am, we can look at this from the point of psychology and from the point of being made in the image of God as creators. So, we're not, in my opinion, we're not meant to just sit around and not create something or not make something beautiful. So, that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to the art of Feng Shui. All right, so let's get into it. This is really exciting. I've actually wanted to talk about this for a long time. All right, so let's talk about each room. So you have your home, you have your space, whether it's your workspace, your home space. You have different spaces that you may be in charge of decorating or arranging. And so let's start with the front door. So the front door is supposed to be inviting, beautiful. It's supposed to represent abundance and invitation. And so some things you could do are place flowers near the front door, have nice lighting on the front door, and just make sure it's clean. Make sure it's open so that way when anyone enters, it's a very easy and beautiful entrance. as they go through and as they knock on the door. I would say also have it locked as a form of protection. You don't want your front door to just be easily accessible from anyone in the neighborhood. So I would say that is a few tips on the front door. And so going inside of the house, we have the the hallways. So you want your hallways to be clear. You want them to represent momentum. So you don't want to be stuck in the hallway, right, in any part of your life, figuratively or realistically. Um, so you want mirrors to be, facing opposite sides of anything that looks beautiful or catching to the eye, like flowers, beautiful wallpaper. And you want the entryway to just be clear. You don't want a lot of junk. You don't want things in people's way when they're trying to walk through. So this is just going to give you space to, have that momentum through the house. And so that's something to keep in mind. Also, um, rugs. Rugs are nice too. They kind of look enchanting and, lovely as you're walking through the home. Maybe a space to leave your coat or to leave dirty shoes, things where someone can get comfortable as they're entering the home. Okay, so let's talk about the living room. The living room is supposed to be a place where people gather, they chit chat, they laugh. You can have a fireplace, something warm and inviting. You want to make sure the seating arrangements are set to where everyone's facing each other and they're not like facing away from each other, or you want it to be an inviting space where people are easily able to talk to one another. You can also have some beautiful flowers, more decorations, family photos, photos of friends, loved ones. This just shows that, you are a person that really enjoys the company of others and are a good person that wants to treat others with kindness. Okay, we could talk about the kitchen. So, you want your kitchen to be clean. You also want the oven to be clean, especially, or the stove, or both. So, this actually represents prosperity, and you want it to be clean so that way you can essentially get the most energetic prosperity that comes your way. So, keep your oven and your stove clean. So, the dining area. So, again, make sure everyone's facing each other. You want a circle or a rectangle, something to where, it's easily accessible to sit down, to pull the chair out. You don't want things cluttered in the way. You don't want to leave a really tight space where, people can hardly get through or sit down. So, make sure the kitchen and the chairs are easily accessible, nice and clean and tidy, dusted off. And add some mirrors. Add some mirrors to reflect that prosperity, to reflect that joy and abundance, right across from the kitchen table or the dining table. All right, so the bathroom, you want to keep the lid closed. I don't know about you, but I have a pet peeve of going into the bathroom with the toilet seat up. So I'm always putting it down based on Feng Shui. And it's supposed to keep the bad energies closed in and shut off from the rest of the air in the room. So keep the lid closed, keep it clean, obviously, and maybe light a candle. Have a candle in there. Obviously, you don't want to leave candles lit while you're not in the room, but maybe if you're taking a bath, taking a shower, you can light the candle and just, have a moment of introspection while you're in the bathroom. Okay, so the bedroom. Now, you don't want any mirrors facing your bed in the bedroom. That's not that's not good feng shui. So, yeah, so for the bedroom, you want to have your bed away from any mirrors reflecting them or anything of that nature. You want your bed to be kind of like a private, personal space that isn't being reflected. You also want your bed to be facing away from the doorway because psychologically, your brain is in a mode of protection and a mode of being on guard when it's facing a doorway. And so you want your space while you're sleeping to be away so you feel more surrendered, more peaceful as you're going to sleep. Okay, so this leads me to the office area. So, your office area, you do want to be in command. So, it's very much the opposite of the bedroom. You want the desk to be facing the front door. You want a wall behind you to provide support. And you want to feel like you're in charge, obviously. If it's your desk, your company, your business, your work, whatever you're working on, you want to make sure that you're alert, you're focused, and you're in charge. So you want to make sure the desk is facing the door, wall behind you, and you want to be able to, stay focused on your task. So I think that's most of the rooms. Obviously, if you have a garden outside, if you have a pool, if you have a deck, or anything of that nature, you just want to keep it clean, keep it tidy, have flowers, anything that represents you and, what makes you happy, what brings you joy. And don't be afraid to be unique. Feng Shui is not about being perfect, it's about what makes you feel the most liberated on the inside and what makes you feel organized and what brings you joy. So, there's no perfect feng shui. I believe it really is up to the individual and what works best for them. You could dive so much deeper into this idea and you could research all different sorts of things that you could do to have the best feng shui in your home. But, I would advise to just keep it simple and start slow, start somewhere, and then keep building your way up. I challenge you this new year to rearrange your home and to decorate, to clean out any, spaces that are cluttered and to create some better feng shui, create some new energy for the new year. Make sure you're living your life intentionally and by design. And remember, your home is not the place that you live externally, it's also the place you go everywhere throughout this entire life and throughout this entire world in your own body, in your own mind. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe as usual. And I do want to ask you to share this video with friends or family that might benefit from knowing about feng shui.